of attendance a second to catch up.
That's yours.
Very good. Currently have $1,734.27.
So that does not include the check that was cut for,
No, the appeal, and it does probably not include the check that was cut for Tom.
okay. So the appeal would be
About $800 and some dollars less.
So that'd be like
$800 or $900.
Okay.
Pass that to Tom, please. That's what he would appreciate it.
So I see we have SCE in the house. Would you like to come up?
Yes.
We're going to run through these
Well,
this morning.
appreciate it. Thank you. My name is Patricia, Edison. And this evening, I'd like to present Mr. Michael Hughes. SCE International Community Announcing Organization has been selected for a grant for $3,000 for disaster preparedness, community resiliency, support. So we're really happy. We've been working on this for a couple of years, and I'd just like to go ahead and congratulate you. Happy.
Great.
Yes, yes. So you guys can go ahead and
Cal, come on up. Let's get Cal up
Yeah.
here too. This was a project that was given birth out of the Resiliency Coalition, was the idea. And the town council went into an agreement with the community center, and the community center being a 501c3, to apply for a grant from Southern California Edison. And we did receive the grant.
and we're really pleased
Right.
to support. Emergency services is really important to us as well. And we're encouraging everyone here to download their app. We have a new app, it's My SCE Outages and the outage map, and it's going to be a really valuable tool.
It's up and running now?
Yes, it is.
Wow.
Yeah. And we'll be moving into a couple of other applications for, elected officials, and they'll be able to have, utilizing their text and apps, through their cell phone, which will be readily available to them wherever you're at. So you won't have to worry about plugging into a computer if you don't have to have a computer. So we're moving that direction, but we're really happy to support your efforts, and you guys do a great job advocating for the
Appreciate
community.
it, and we both very much appreciate you and your support and your efforts to help us get this.
You're welcome.
You're a great liaison with Southern Cal Edison,
Thank you.
which I was always saying in the past.
Thank
Thank you very much.
You're welcome. And I'll just give you a quick update. We're in the restoration process with the TRTP, doing a lot of hydro seeding, doing a little bit of, there's going to be like silk fence and wattles are being replaced, things like that. I know I've been talking to Catherine about a few other areas that we need to improve, and we'll continue on. That's going to be a long-term process, on and on and on. I mean, until the vegetation takes and everything else is pretty much restored. So our criteria is probably a 5-year plan, for restoration, and we continue working in that direction. So
You're doing more than hydro seeding, though, right?
oh yeah, we're doing more than hydro seeding. They have a lot of erosion control, as you probably may have seen on Juniper Ridge, with the wattles and everything, repairing the silt fence, and working a lot on the Vincent Yard, which is right off the freeway. So.
Yeah, I was up at Vincent Yard just like on Friday, I think it was. And it still looked fairly
Yes.
bleak.
Well, we had the initial efforts. Of course, we have drought conditions, so so we're back to doing the reseeding and a lot of erosion control. So, and I elevated the concerns audio with the project team and explained. So I'm going to try to call him this week and see about the areas that he's talking about. Runoff, yes.
Structure 5.
Yes. Go ahead.
Is there any update with the lighting and?
No updates. As I've explained in the past, it's pretty much we'll go with FAA recommendations, and I don't know if the council's reached out to them. Have you reached out to the FAA?
We've done all the background on it, and what the EIR said, what the EIS said, what the Forest Service says it says, which isn't what actually is built. And I've turned that over to Tom, and I know Tom is gonna run with it as soon as he gets a chance to breathe, right? Or-
Yep.
And Tom, you're welcome to, if you want to, address it to our executive, I'll be glad to channel it up and just, as you guys said, you're getting all the information together and, I'll go ahead and point in the right direction. It's a situation not only in Acton. I mean, we have these marker balls and lights are required at all of our, these different construction projects. So we are, again, following their recommendations. If we make it, play favorites up here, it's one of those things.
Well, it has to be a standard.
Yes,
And so
exactly.
it's not an issue of favorites.
Right.
And when we see everything in the forest has no lights, and only private lands in the valleys have lights, that tells us that the standard, that there has been some favorite plan. Whether it's by the FAA or
Right.
the Forest Service, we're not saying it's Edison.
Right.
But I do know that what Justin Seastrand told me was approved in the way it was configured in the forest is not actually how it was constructed. So either he doesn't understand his own plan, or it wasn't implemented the way he thought it was going to be. And so that's why it's not just FAA, but it's also Forest Service,
Right.
because that's the standard that we have to look at. So, and I know Tom is going to run with it. I'm not sure so much it's marker balls, I mean, that's an annoyance, but it's the,
Lights.
it's
It's
really
the lights,
the
marker
lights.
balls.
It's the lights.
They're just
And locations too,
egregious.
there's a light in the middle of the mountain, it's not on the top of the mountain, so I don't know how
Well,
the
that's-
FAA comes into play.
That's
And they would
right on
be,
the nail.
and exactly, like Jackie's saying, they'll be able to give us
Is there,
their decision, how they came to the standards.
who will be able to?
It should be the forest and the FAA.
So all the different entities will come up with their own answer.
Well,
You can,
this is how I understand it. There was no requirements anywhere. There were just suggestions. And where they got implemented was just on private land.
Right.
And we talked, it was a lot, Edison is concerned about their own liability. But, that liability exists, whether it's in the Forest Service land or on private land. So,
What's the difference if you're
Yeah.
gonna do it one way, like?
yeah, and the other issue is this, because this town council commented heavily on the research. When they decided to put the lights on, the EIR and EIS were recirculated. We submitted extensive comments. We were guaranteed by the commission to be shielded and it wouldn't be a problem. And none of that came to fruition. So the PUC is involved in this as well. Because the PUC has jurisdiction over the parts that are on private land. Whatever happens in the forest, exactly. And they are not going to be happy either if the Forest Service got, just like with the spore acts. Forest Service got spore acts, we didn't get spore acts. And that's, so, anyhow.
Well,
So
let's move on, because I think everyone here is familiar with the problems, and the next step is for Tom to move forward.
Sure.
This discussion here isn't going to go anywhere, we've got other things we can move on to. So,
Thank you.
And can I ask Patricia one quick question?
oh, sure.
When's the new year we can apply for another grant?
Yes.
When? First of the year?
January.
Yeah,
Yes.
thank you.
And there'll be some documentation in there, they'll just ask you, have you applied the money to this year's projects?
Sounds good.
And there's, I'll let you know in the windows, it's usually January, I believe March or April, and then we got into September. So there's usually 3 per year, and so if you don't make it the first round, try.
How about if you make it the first round, you gonna try the second round? the third
Well,
round? I'm
they'll
just
do that
asking.
once a year.
Thanks.
But anyways, we're real happy.
Patricia?
Uh-huh.
So the reconductoring on
Girl,
segment 11,
yes,
okay, I'm just curious, is that going on because they've got big crane trucks parked up there
Yes.
for 2 weeks?
yes.
Nobody working, it looks like, it looks like driving by a junkyard. You got all the trucks up there, you're using the pads for storage and no what's going on.
They're working on getting the other end of the line prepared, so they put equipment on both ends, so that when they get started on the pulling.
But it's been 2 weeks, we've
Yeah.
got equipment sitting up there. We get up in the morning, we have a coffee, and what do we see? We see a big truck with a bucket sitting up there.
I can
And
go
it
ahead,
looks like a junkyard.
Yeah, I understand, it's a lot of equipment, I know, because they have the pulling equipment, and then they have the reels, and they have, I'll go ahead and give an update.
Back up to the minutes, any changes or corrections?
I do have just one minor one on page 3. I can hand you that one. I just would suggest it's read as, is there noted that Public Works,
Which?
I'm sorry, item 12.
Okay.
Is there noted that Public Works did not require the Taco Bell project developer to provide a traffic signal warrant analysis?
Okay.
And Ms. Ayer will send her traffic analysis results to Public Works. Those are the only things other. I give you that.
Okay.
Other than that, I make a motion to accept it.
All in favor?
Aye. Or unless Mike's still reading, sorry.
Is Deputy Short here? Library report.
Thank you.
So I just handed you all a copy of our October programs, and you'll notice two things are attached. That's because I've run out of room on my normal 2-page October calendar, so we're doing pretty good, I think. One is our Halloween carnival coming up. 31st is a Saturday, I think. Library staff has decided to do a Lord of the Rings theme costume thing. So if any of you want to join in, there might be a prize if you come in wearing your costume, just FYI. Not much of a prize, because it's small. And also, our local authors event is happening on the 24th, which is normally, we get a pretty good crowd for that. So if any of you in the audience are interested in a meeting agenda, I'm just going to start leaving them by this little table in the back room by the fire extinguisher, so maybe I can just grab one. And I've started putting all my little event flyers back there too, if you are interested in those. And I guess I would encourage all of you to just bring whatever you like, and I'll set some stuff up on the table as well to make it easy for all of you. Just the next couple of things to pass out.
I have a little correction here.
Okay.
For the high-speed rail meeting, it's next Monday, October 12th.
21 got transposed to 12.
Well, it says Wednesday too, Jack. So,
It's correct in the journal because I caught that.
yeah, and I called and left a message, but
Okay.
On
So
the-
tell me when that was it, Monday?
Monday, October 12th at 6 p.m.
Okay, I'm sorry about that.
Oh, no
The library would like to apologize.
What I'd like to do at this time with announcements and correspondences is anyone have any that came in to their emails or any of the general email boxes that we have?
Announcements and correspondence, but not, well, there's been some emails, yes, that have come in. Several, do you want me to tell you about them?
Yes, yeah.
We've had, I don't know, 20 or so at least petitions that have come in, I've printed them all out. 2 people have said that they're in support of the Taco Bell project. I've replied to both of them. One of them, though the reply got kicked back, so I have to figure that one out. But I clarified that the issue is the drive-through, because that's where the commuters, that's what will hold commuters out. The letter I just responded to, Catherine had a copy of it, said that how can Acton grow if it doesn't have businesses and the community will be stifled. So I asked the person, because I don't know if it's a he or she, to clarify what they meant by Acton growing, because this council, at least as far back as 2004, has never opposed any residential development or commercial development. It has just asked that these developments be configured in certain ways and that they be community serving and not freeway serving. And then I pointed out that that has been the constraint on all development as a rural community in Acton, designated rural community, to preserve that status. The county has insisted on that for the last 30 years. And so I asked the person to write back what they meant by what Acton growing looked like, so that we could have a better understanding of what their concerns were. And I also clarified that it was the drive-through has been a big issue, and it has always been for us, because that's what pulls the commuters off the freeway. So,
Did they email back and clarify
but
their
this was
stance?
just this afternoon, that email came in early this morning, or sometime this morning. And the other one was similar, same issue, it just was like the Taco Bell, but not addressing the commuters or the drive-through, so.
There was no name on this one.
That's correct. So I don't know if it was a he or she or a they, but I did send in a response, and it's there on the website, so. I mean,
Yeah,
it's-
I think
they're in
the
our-
whole purpose is to, you know, create dialogue with people that are,
Right.
you know, for other things, but also without chastising them at the same time.
Right.
But we need to get more opinions out there, because,
Right,
you know, the general consensus is that there's a lot of people hiding in the shadows
right,
that are thinking differently than the people that are out here in the daylight talking to us. And we need to represent all of them, but without knowing who they are, we don't know how it works.
well, I think it's also important to understand what exactly it is that they're in favor of.
Yeah.
You know, because as far as I know, this town council has not said, we don't want Taco Bell, what we want, what it says, we don't want drive-through businesses, and we don't want freeway-oriented businesses. So that's an important distinction, and it needs to be understood.
Okay.
We
any-
do know who some of those people are because there was a small number of people who responded to the Country Journal survey, and they were definitely in favor of Taco Bell. All that stuff's been published, so
Right.
if you want to go back and look at the survey results,
Well,
you'll see their comments. 'Cause
I
they published
think-
all those too.
And not to get off of, you know, correspondences in the area that we're in right now, but I think there was a letter and comments made to planning commissioners and such that the council here does not represent the majority of Acton, and that there are other people with other opinions out there, and I'm just wondering where they are, because, you know, we've got those, but again, that was, you know, 20% of everyone that responded, and if that's the majority, then they're not representing themselves well, and not letting us in on it. I just really like to see more people participating in the surveys and in these meetings, and even just simple emails like these really help
But
us.
we have gotten two. I mean, we've
Okay.
gotten probably 30 in the other direction,
Right,
and, you know, at least 20 petitions, so.
yeah. No, I understand. There's a gentleman in the back that had a question or a statement.
Yeah. Okay, I sent in the most recent letter you were referring to.
Oh, the email this morning?
Yeah.
Okay, are you RJ? Yes. Or just whatever?
No, I'm the lifetime resident.
Okay.
Okay, then.
I've lived in Acton my entire life out here. I didn't have time to really prepare for a back and forth with you. But my basic observation from looking at the stuff that went on with Taco Bell is, yes, you're very opposed to the drive-through, but it was clear from the beginning that Taco Bell was going to come in with a drive-through, because that's the only way to be a sustainable business, especially in this community. But over the last few projects, Taco Bell being the most recent example, it seems that the council is trying to actively discourage new business development, not just drive-throughs or so-called freeway serving businesses, but anything indicating a large business you seem to be actively fighting against. Now, Acton has slowed down some recently, but the number of residents is still growing, and at this time, the stores and amenities we have here are not sufficient to serve the needs of the community as they stand now. You will have the comment made by a lot of people that, well, Palmadale's 10 minutes that way, or Santa Clarita's 20 minutes that way, but it's not the same as having the stuff local and available here.
Well, in this community, and this is what we pointed out in the appeal, when you, fast food, which is food that you pay for before you eat it, and it's available relatively immediately. There are more than 10 businesses in Acton that already sell that type of food. And when you consider the population of Acton is only 7,500, then the question becomes, okay, so how, and those 10 businesses serve thousands of people a day. So how is it that we don't have enough to support 7,500 when we're already supporting thousands? I'm not understanding the perspective, and I'm not arguing with you, I'm just truly seeking to understand how it is we don't have enough fast food restaurants in this town, or places where you can buy food that's ready-made.
I'm not speaking specifically to fast food restaurants, but
Okay, I'm sorry, I thought I
for
misunderstood you.
describing, as you're describing fast food, you're calling that just ready-made. So I'm assuming you're counting the sushi place, Wentz's, both markets.
No,
and
those are
businesses
restaurants.
similar.
I'm talking about Subi, Subway, the Market, Arco, they all sell food. The liquor store, they sell food you can buy, you pay for it.
Grizzly Burger.
Yeah.
Grizzly Burger.
I'm not talking about
Yeah.
sit-down restaurants where you pay after you've eaten. So,
Yeah, I mean, there's the Mexican restaurant too, that, honestly, I've been out here 4 years, I've driven by 100 times, I just went there the first time 6 months ago, and the food's phenomenal.
La Colonia?
Yeah, I sold it
But
at,
that's,
you know,
that's
I-
not a fast food.
No, we're
Yeah,
just talking about fast.
And I haven't seen you at the meetings before, so some of the other items that have come up that maybe you're not aware of is that there are ordinances that were put together over a long period of time that the whole community input on. And these are ordinances that are, you know, they're basically law. And when the planning department goes in, and such as Taco Bell is coming with their plans to us, all we've done is reviewed our ordinances that the community has approved and found all the parts that the planning department isn't going to institute. And so they can't really be, we're trying to make them non-selective on who they want to institute these ordinances on, such as lighting and, you know, such, and, you know, parking, horse trails, tie-offs. And there was a lot of issues with Taco Bell on that we put to them and said, look, this isn't us, this is our ordinances, and we need the planning department to institute it.
And with respect to things like Rite Aid, we have 2 pharmacies in
Well,
town.
let me
I'm
finish
sorry.
though. But on top of that, there's also been the general consensus that we have dark sky ordinances here in Acton too, so that we don't want traffic lights. And it's not this board, it was put into these ordinances 10 years ago. And a lot of these businesses, if they were just community serving, it would just be us. But Taco Bell particularly, and these drive-thrus, when they pull from the freeway, it increases the traffic, which is already pretty heavy on the corner with McDonald's, sometimes spilling out onto the road. And by Taco Bell going in, it may now go ahead and go against the ordinance for the community again, where now they've got to put in traffic lights. So we have no control over the ordinances. It's written in, it's with the planning department, but we do go and we try to remind them that this is what the community wanted.
And they approved.
And they approved. And so it's written in there. And as far as new businesses coming in, we're all for, you know, the feed store to go in, but they're trying to tie it into a business with a drive-through that's going to pull from the freeway. We have no problem with Taco Bell whatsoever, as long as they fix their signage and fix the other little issues in there. But with the drive-through and their business plan, which everyone's in a hurry these days, that doesn't work with us, and mainly because they're pulling from the freeway. Deputy Short has told us before that a lot of our crime happens within close distances and proximities of our freeway exits. It's not, you know, we don't have 100% of good people here, but most of us, I think, are pretty good. But the freeway, when you're pulling from the freeway, it's going to create, you know, things that are in contrast to the ordinances, in contrast to us needing traffic signals, and it's just how it is. And I understand a lot of businesses can't survive without a drive-through. And I use the McDonald's drive-through. You know, I mean, it's convenient at times, but again, when you're looking at safety issues for the children crossing the street without a traffic signal, so it's all these things that are layered, and we're just trying to make sure that everyone follows the same path and that the planning department institutes these ordinances. But I mean, I don't want to say I disagree with you, but we are for businesses. I'd love to have some more restaurants out here. I like Italian myself. There's no Italian restaurants out here. But
I'd like to ask you a question.
oh, go ahead.
Mike, could you clarify, you made a statement that said that the council is discouraging other businesses. Where are you getting that information from, and what businesses do you think we've discouraged?
You're actively discouraging Taco Bell, Rite Aid, and Dollar General are the most recent ones that come to mind. Admittedly, I haven't been following the council super close recently. I have many demands on my time, which is regrettable at my young age. But, every time I hear anything about a new business coming in, or a new business looking and coming in, if I look into it, almost always that business from coming in. Now, as Chris was saying, there are various ordinances and other things that have been in place for a long time. And yes, I'm not fully aware of these. A lot of you guys are up there, could be my father or my grandfather.
And in your defense, I wasn't aware of these ordinances either. I lived here a few
Yeah, no,
years.
if
I'm
you
learning
try
as
to
I
keep
go.
aware of the ordinances, your head will explode trying to absorb all of them. But every time I look into it, it seems like the council is actively discouraging businesses. First, we hear we don't want a chain business, and we hear we don't want a drive-through. And I don't remember why you didn't like Rite Aid, but it seems like there's always an excuse.
Drive-through.
If I may, for a couple minutes. New beard?
Pardon?
New beard?
Relatively.
Looks good, looks good. I've known Mike for many years, and he's known me, not on a super personal level, but many
Yeah,
years
we've
I've
known
known
of
him.
each other for many
Absolutely.
years, yes.
And I trust his input, I trust his opinion on many things, because I know the person that Mike is. At least I think so from what I've seen him grow up and everything else. I can just assure you, this council or any previous council, they cannot pick and choose what businesses come into Acton, even though they may want to. That's not within their purview. All they can legitimately do is interpret the laws and the ordinances that are on the books that have been passed by the county and have been developed and passed through the council and through the community to the county and are adopted by law. They can't say, I don't want a Starbucks here because it competes with Perkin' Up. That may be someone's personal opinion, but they can't say that. They can't take that opinion. If there's a drive-through and the community with a survey that basically sent surveys to every community member in Acton, every resident in Acton, and we got back around 600 responses, I believe, and 85% of the responses from the community said no new drive-throughs. That we have to listen to, along with the laws that are on the books, along with the new AV area plan, which was developed over 10 to 15 years, which indicates to discourage any traffic coming off the freeway. Those are the things this council has a purview on. And we may up here, because we're on the council from time to time, say, well, we believe this, or we don't want this, or we this. It's not an individual we that we are allowed to speak from. It's a community-wide we, what has been developed by the community over the years. Now, if there's a majority of people in the community that want drive-throughs, then they will have to change the area plan that's adopted already by the county supervisors, and they will have to let their opinions be known so that we can know that. But when 85% of the people respond, no new drive-throughs, we have no other thing to do but to say that.
Yeah,
Well, as you said about letting their voices be heard, that's why I'm here tonight, is to make my opinion known. And Jackie was remarking earlier about the massive negative response with the minimal positive response. And I don't remember your exact words, but one of you said something about being told there were other people in favor of it that were just hiding out in the shadows, more or less. Pardon me if I get the phrasing wrong.
Silent majority kind of thing.
well, I'm glad you've stepped out of the shadows.
Part of why many of us that would like to see more development in Acton remain in the shadows is because, as you've noted, the vocal group is the ones that don't want additional development in Acton. And I know I'm generalizing, but based on my personal experiences, this also tends to be the group sitting behind their 3-rail plastic fencing in front of a concrete sidewalk going, oh, isn't this so rural and nice? Whereas it's exactly the opposite to those of us that grew up out here and remember the world before fences.
Well,
But part of it is the silent majority, or minority, whichever it may be, are remaining silent because we don't want to get into it with the vocal people.
well, if I can, because I really would like to understand this. This council has never, ever opposed a zone change for more commercial land. It did it for the archery center, it did it for the property next to the archery center, it did it for the, where your office is, even the Pizza Hut, all those were zone changes.
If there was a
and Country
proposal.
Feed. Well, yes, Country Feed, exactly.
Right,
Well,
but if there was a
it-
proposal.
A
And
business,
even-
a business proposal.
I'm sorry, it even approved it when there was no proposal, just last November.
Which it got reversed.
No, it actually didn't. That letter still supported it. So I'm just confused. I don't know of any request that any property owner, and the same's true with subdivisions too. Even down at Carson Mesa, did not oppose that subdivision. We just asked that when the fire department builds the road to avoid the flood, it doesn't send the drivers into yet another flood, if you recall. So I'm a little bit confused or concerned that there's a perspective out there that this council opposes commercial businesses and commercial zone changes. We have always supported those, but we are also, and have been for more than 30 years, a designated rural community, which means 30 years.
I
Well,
think,
to speak to that directly, I said, I don't know if this is a general perception or anything else. I can't speak for anybody here tonight except myself. But looking at the meetings dealing with Taco Bell, that seemed to be the general feeling I was getting.
well, Mike, I totally am sympathetic for you, because you know what, I can see that, and I can see where when we put something out and say, look, Taco Bell's coming, there's gonna be a presentation, anyone who is for or opposed, this is the meeting, come and speak, and then we get a majority of people that are opposed, and maybe hostility, maybe some people that were for it didn't get up and speak, but again, it's the squeaky wheel that gets the grease in any certain situation, and you coming out tonight, I thank you, and I applaud you.
Yes.
And you know, and the bottom line is, if we did another survey and 800 came in for it and 805 and 799 came in against it, we would probably vote for the 800 that's for it. Or we'd say, look, this is why it can't be, but if we can go to the planning department and get it changed, you know, it's just a matter of, you gotta speak up. And these others that, I was one that said it, are sitting in the shadows. If they don't speak up, then they pretty much are gonna get what they get, because we have no idea, and we can't guess at what the community wants, other than for the community members that are speaking up. And so,
The other thing that I'd like to say, Mike, is I really do appreciate you coming,
Yeah.
because
Absolutely.
we truly need to have all of the community representative. But the thing is, when the community said no marijuana dispensary, this town council went to bat and made sure that we did everything we could to prevent that from happening, because the community said no.
And we have the
So-
same thing with the Rite Aid.
You know, we've got hundreds of petitions that we've gathered in the last 3 to 4 weeks against the Taco Bell drive-through. So, not to shoot you down or anybody else, it just comes to the point of, we have to do what the majority of people and what the county is telling us.
I went to Acton School from K through 8th. I currently go to school in Palmdale. So when he was talking about the Taco Bell thing, you said that it would inconvenience people to put like a traffic light in up there.
well, it's not an inconvenience, it's against our ordinances in the town.
I'm here for Boy Scouts, and I have to write a summary. Could you explain what that is? Why?
Well,
I can explain it in one sentence.
okay.
We are a designated rural community. We have that status in the general plan, which means no urban infrastructure, including traffic signals, curbs, gutters, streetlights, none of those things. The county started putting them in, and this community said stop, and they've stopped.
Okay.
So,
Is that-
That was my question.
I'm happy to talk to you at Boy Scouts some night
Thank you.
for more information.
okay. Sandy, did you want to say something?
I do. My name is Sandy Madsen. There are a lot of people in our community. I was amazed the other day, I was speaking to someone who has lived here quite a while, who had no idea that we as a community get no revenue from any of these businesses that want to come into our community and park themselves there and pull freeway traffic, et cetera, et cetera. We get nothing, not one dime, not 1 cent,
Yeah,
because
a
we
lot
are
of people-
we are unincorporated.
Exactly. A lot of people are unaware that the council here is not only volunteer, and I'll just make one quick statement, I'll let you finish. We're not only volunteer, but all the expenses, all of this paper printed, everything that goes on, every time we take a day off or we have to head down to Los Angeles, it costs us hundreds and hundreds of dollars out of our own pockets. One day for me, we went down there, parking's $20, you take 4 or 5 hours off work. Some of us aren't retired, and it's all money out of our own pockets, and there's no money at all, and thank God that Lillian actually gives us these surveys and does all these articles for us, because we have no money. If someone wanted to say, hey, why don't you do a mailer? Well, that could be $5,000 or $6,000. No one's fronting the money for us.
Printing every month.
So we take the avenues that we can afford, and that's our website and Lillian. So any suggestions that people may have, just take into consideration, there's no money for it. 'Cause this is
Well, I want to say a couple more things. I was interested in what Michael said about we are not growing to support our community. Our growth is not enough to support our community. And I have to say, I know you didn't have a choice because you were born here, but I had a choice, and I was living in the heartbeat of Los Angeles, and I moved here knowing full well that I was going to have to drive one way or the other to do this, that, and the other thing, and that was my choice. People come here, apparently, a lot of people come here and want the same thing they had down in the city, but they want everything else that's here too. I think we need to do, I don't want to talk about Taco Bell tonight. I want to talk about, let's educate our community about what really is, and there were a lot of good questions that came up tonight about that. I don't know how we do that, but maybe a series of articles in our papers, both papers, about what living in a rural community means. And if there are silent people here, they better speak up, or that's too bad, as far as I'm concerned. Because if you don't speak, how can anybody know what the heck is going on? You know, what
Okay, last person, we're going to move on. Go ahead.
My name is Matthew Romero. I'm a Navy veteran. I've only lived here for about a year. But on the topic that you were saying, ma'am, I'm going to have to slightly disagree, because as Michael was saying, as being kind of younger, we're not really able to qualify for jobs that give us enough money to live on our own. So I don't know about him, but I still live with my parents, and I have to work a minimum wage job, and I have to drive 30 minutes into Santa Clarita to do that. So I disagree with you when you say that it gives nothing back to our community, because the younger people can get jobs there locally where they can, stay and not have to be driving 30 minutes each way. So that was just something that I thought about that. And with the whole silent community thing, until I started looking into you guys and the council, I also did agree with Mike, where I thought that the council was totally against expansion, and then I started looking into it and I realized you guys weren't. And I think a lot of people in my generation, I'm 23, agree with that.
That was a great age. I wish I was 23 again.
I'm in shape. But I think a lot of people my age feel like the council's only for, no offense, older people, and that our opinion won't be valued. So that's why I kind of wanted to come and start getting involved and looking into this.
Okay, with that said, we had our, actually with the election, we'll let Tom go ahead and take this. We had everyone send in documents to run again. We had one person fall shy, but we still have an open seat. And I think we're going to, I'll let Tom take over. I'm going to say what I'd like to do is vote to accept all applications that have been in so far, and also maybe put to a vote that we don't have an election because we're still going to have a vacant seat. So go ahead, Tom.
Well, the date to apply is coming past. We had 2 applicants that made the date. One was Kelly Tino, and the other one is a who's not here tonight. Excuse me for a minute. The second, Catherine, who meant to apply for it, missed the date by a couple of days, and we received her application 2 or 3 days later. So we have 3 applications for 4 seats, I believe. Is that correct?
2 valid applications.
2 valid applications for 4 seats. So I don't see any reason to, like we just said to have an election when the positions are going to be automatically filled. There's nobody to run against, so, yes.
The bylaws do allow for the elimination of the election, of not having an election, and just accepting those individuals that applied for council positions prior to the filing deadline as being appointed or being part of the council, that they will be accepted on the council. Anything that came in after the filing deadline would have to fill the then 2 vacant positions by appointment, which would be done by the new council when they are formed.
Right, so as Chris had mentioned, I think it makes sense to not have the election because there's nobody to run against, to automatically put the 2 that applied in time on the council, and then to bring Katherine in their appointment, provided the council, someone, the council agrees.
And at that point for appointment, then should we then open it up for others to apply for the vacant seats? And then we would
The
have
first
to
step would
choose.
be to have a vote, which I believe Tom is moving that we do, to have a vote to eliminate the election and to accept the 2 applicants as new members of the council on the new council. And the second thing would be then to publicize the fact that we will still have 2 council positions open effective the 3rd of November, and that all interested parties should apply.
Yes.
5 seats.
I'm sorry, you're right there?
Yeah.
Is it
And I
fine?
thought Angela had submitted a.
Not by the deadline.
No, after.
Yeah,
no, nothing.
Yeah, that's a
Right, so
different
she's
thing.
in the same position as
Yes.
Kathy.
Yeah, absolutely. But there were 5 people running.
3 weeks ago?
So how many open do we have then?
At least 3 open.
Okay, so we have 3 open positions
So
then.
she's in the same position as
Right,
Kathy.
absolutely.
Tom knows, this gentleman just asked.
I believe I read in the Acton paper today that the deadline is listed as October 15th, and I had full intention of running.
No, the deadline it was
For an application.
For an application for an absentee
for
ballot.
an absentee ballot, yes.
Oh, okay. I misinterpreted.
But if you're interested in running,
I absolutely am.
Okay,
yeah.
well then,
What'll happen is, let's get the election vote out.
Yeah.
all right, so I move to,
I second.
All in favor?
All right.
Motion passes.
We're not going to talk about high-speed rail?
We, did you look at the agenda? We had put
I don't
off.
have an agenda, I'm sorry.
It's okay, it was a rush with the rain. Is there something pertinent you'd like to mention before we?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay.
There's several things going on right now with the high-speed rail. Many articles have been recently put into the Antelope Valley Press, where the High-Speed Rail Authority is now looking for private investors. There's a whole schedule of meetings coming up in the Antelope Valley. This was published also, and they're talking about the Bakersfield to Palmdale route, which we all know is difficult to get over the Tehachapi's. It's already been said that it was impossible to do that by one engineering firm. So Wednesday night, I will be going to Lancaster to look at the presentation. There seems to be a lot of opposition from Lancaster, Rosemont, Tehachapi, all of those communities out there, Mojave, they're all up in arms about it. So I will go to the meeting.
You're waking up.
Well, apparently.
Tomorrow's is in Rosemont.
Yes, Jackie, and Wednesday is in Lancaster. Okay, this past Friday, Jackie and I met with high-speed rail GPS surveying team from Yucaipa, who did 2 sites in Acton, one on Big Springs, which is to the west at the Escondido overpass. That's where Big Springs is. The second site was at Edison, just by Edison right there. They were there the entire day. I did not stay with them, nor did Jackie, for the entire day. They were setting their equipment. They would have to come back and read it 40 minutes later. Then they were moving on to Palmdale to do 2 sites in Palmdale, one at the lake and one at, I forgot what the other one was. Oh, on the east side somewhere. Okay. They are coming back again tomorrow morning. I will be meeting them at 6:30 in the morning again. It was 6:30 last Friday. but we need to be aware of what they're doing in our community, and so therefore we have to go. Let's see, what else did I have?
While you're thinking, I do want to give a correction. That is one development this town council has opposed, is the high-speed rail.
Yeah,
Sorry.
okay, whatever.
There is development.
Next Monday night at 6 o'clock, we will be having a meeting here in the library from 6 to 7:30 to discuss everything that we've learned. I'm in constant contact with the guys up in the Central Valley. I want some feedback from them as to what's happening on our lawsuit. But then I'll be able to report on this new segment that they're talking about, which I'm shocked that they're going after this now. But there's several new lawsuits pending or going into effect up in the San Francisco Peninsula also that I've been reading about. And one of our main contacts with the San Francisco Examiner, Kathy Hamilton, apparently the San Francisco Examiner has now decided that there isn't enough
Not enough people care about it.
the high-speed rail, so they've let Kathy go, which is shocking. She's been writing it for years.
She's
up
getting
there.
her own blog up though.
Yes,
So what
but
it is.
I'm just announcing
I'm
this,
sorry.
Jackie. So, if you have any questions, you can always reach me at my office or on my cell phone. It's posted in the papers. And that's it for tonight on the high-speed rail, I guess.
I have a quick question about
Yes,
the gentleman or the crew that you were with.
yes.
What are they doing exactly? I didn't hear that. I
It-
didn't hear what they were doing.
It's a GPS. They were setting GPS monitors.
Oh, okay.
So, and they were close to the power line so that they could determine the swag.
Sag.
I'm gonna call it swag, okay? Swag. You can call it whatever you want, Miss Engineer, but it was a swag, and they were determining the difference between the lines. I mean, they tried to explain it to me, but I'm not that bright with
So
engineers.
nothing to do with,
They wanted to know the height of
Right.
those towers. And what they were doing at Big Springs, I don't know, because I did not go to Big Springs with them, because they said it would be 6 hours or more before they got over there.
Well,
So,
the
so
thing
nothing to do with the beginning of the test boards?
no, nothing, no,
The test boards are all
in the Angeles
in the
Forest.
locations that they can send.
The concern though, with where the lines that they're looking at is the lines that they connect to are not lines that will ever be affected by the train anyway. So I'm concerned that they've now changed the route a little bit towards Forested and made it go further east. So I don't
Especially
like what it
since-
bodes for routes that we have not yet seen, that I believe they're developing.
Especially since they were back over there at Big Springs.
Yeah, they were at places where,
It didn't
Should
make
be
sense, the route
anything.
where they were doing their work did not make sense
just
for
like when they
our,
were doing their sound surveys, were all in places where the thing would be 100 feet underground. So I don't know why they would take the sound.
you're welcome.
Because they're not going to tell you that they're 100 feet up.
They were very nice, they were from Ukaipa, and we did have a representative with us from the High Speed Rail Authority out of Genevieve's office. So Genevieve will be there tomorrow, is what I've been told.
So she's back in the
We-
saddle again.
We circled her back in. Don't know how that happened, but we did it. and
Just on a superficial role, but it's still there.
Not so superficial from what I can see, but anyway, she's back with us. She's always been willing to share information, so I sincerely appreciate that. Instead of, I always felt like I could at least talk to her.
She's more sympathetic than I.
I'm new to the community, so this is my first time at the town council meeting. I did bring my daughter.
Great, thank you.
And I apologize for my lateness. I'm just looking over the agenda. I was wondering if you could already discuss the Taco Bell development. I did get this petition that I did sign and submit. But I'm curious as to what the next steps might be. I heard that there's going to be an appeal, there's going to be
We
some
have.
kind of movement to get people to the county.
I'll give you a quick rundown, as we are pooling the community. A lot of responses are coming in against the Taco Bell. The next step for us is that we are filing an appeal half of our bank account will go for that. And then we'll keep you up to date through the papers and such. But yeah, we did already discuss that. We are moving on. We're almost ready to adjourn. But we do appreciate that. You can drop that off with us.
Well,
up
Jake,
here.
we'll take your petition.
I submitted it today.
Oh, you mailed it in?
All right.
Well, it's here in the library.
Oh, okay, I got it. All right.
Fantastic. And we do appreciate you coming in because we're trying to get more of the community out here.
Right, right. My question is for clarification in the letter. It said it was approved by the planning commission, so it hasn't yet gone to the county for approval. Is that correct?
The planning commission is the arm that's in charge of the regional planning department who makes these decisions, but it has not gone to the board of supervisors.
Right,
And
okay,
it
so
would
the
not.
advice, the recommendation hasn't yet been given, but they have.
No, it was never going to go to the board of supervisors. It was just going to be done by the planning commission, that was it. So we appealed it, and now it's being kicked up to the board of supervisors.
Okay.
So we're collecting petitions and also comments in favor of, until that hearing happens, which might be even November.
Yeah,
So,
and when the hearing does happen, we may be making a call out to the community to come on up and speak in front of them also, so just,
we'll get a bus.
all right, thank you. Deputy Short, would you like to do your report?
Thank you
We'll
very
adjourn
much.
to the evening?
I will make it quick.
Okay.
And just so you know, I've been gone for the last almost 5 days in Grand Canyon, and I pulled the trailer at 7 o'clock tonight, dropped it, and came here.
Well,
That's because, no, because the weather was bad, I would have been home earlier. And I apologize. So, I have, next meeting I'll have the stats for September, because she was busy doing something for some lieutenant, but he's more important than us, but I tried. But anyway, we had 27 reports, or 27 incidents that resulted in reports from August. We had 3 burglaries, 2 assaults, 2 thefts, and I wrote it down for you, Lillian, so I'll just hand it to you. 2 drunk driving, 1 miscellaneous felony, 1 miscellaneous misdemeanor, 1 missing person, 6 suspicious circumstance reports, and those are primarily adult protective services and children's services where we have to do a follow-up. And if we have any question, we write a suspicious circumstance that says, I can't tell you whether a crime occurred, but here's the facts. And then that goes up to somebody who handles those regularly and say, hey, what you've listed could be a crime, and then it gets forwarded to the DA if that's the case. We had 1 mentally ill, 4 non-criminal reports, 1 under the influence, 1 damage to county property, and 2 felony vandalisms for the 27th. So that was our report. Just be careful in the rain for those who aren't from here and new here who don't know how to drive in the rain. As you know, the desert can get flash floods rather quickly. Streets can become covered and inundated with mud, and it's not very good. So, anybody have any questions? Oh, one thing I do, it's kind of on this but not, but I've heard several comments over the last couple of meetings about money that we don't get from taxes. Okay, that's not quite correct, because any money that's generated goes into the general fund, and that pays for the sheriff's department, the fire department, the road department, all the signs, all the maintenance, the library, and anything that's county building. So it does come back in a way, but it's in the county charter that unincorporated cities are fed from the general fund. They're not a specific line item per se.
With the additional funding that the county has received for supplying deputies to the unincorporated areas. Right. Specifically specifying the unincorporated areas. Exactly. Will we be having an increase in deputies in Acton? You have. Okay. We have 3 cars during the day and 2 cars at night. Good.
But not just in that.
But not just in Acton, but Acton benefited because we run 3 units during the day and an extra unit that's one of the cops team bodies that they've assigned. So we actually have 3 plus a shared one that goes between Pear Blossom and here. Pear Blossom has 3, Leona Valley has 2, so they've increased that, and at night we have 2 extra units, so hopefully that will cover and see how that goes. I noticed just
looking at the stats from this month, they've gone down, so, since they've been out, so hopefully that'll continue. All right?
Fingers crossed.
All right,
Thank you.
Halloween's coming. By the way, does anybody know if, are they doing,
All right, Scott, make it quick.
are they doing a trunk or treat at the park? Anybody know? I haven't seen any
Yes,
yet.
they are.
Yes.
Yes.
Go ahead, Scott.
Will the so-called 100 dogs on the your property ordinance be on the next agenda? What the next steps are?
It will, and we will bring it up and discuss it on the next agenda. Okay. All right, meeting adjourned. Thank you, everyone.
Thank